With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match cooked on Anfield Index Pro, podcasting to you from my field, which is overgrown and needs mowing here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to a game that doesn't really matter, where Liverpool won 4-2 and still will remain in third place in the Premier League from Anfield, are Dave Hendrick and Mr. Mo Chatra. And Dave, I think we'll give, like I said to you just before the mics went live, scant regard to our usual formula here and just talk about some of the things that occurred on the back of that. Nice to see the Reds do a bit of football. Little bit less than nice to see the Reds do some bad defending, but that, I guess, in and of itself produces an opportunity for the next man.
I thought we defended pretty well up until the changes started to be made. And we put together for a brief spell one of the weaker midfields, just from a physical point of view, that you're ever likely to see. But overall, I mean, up until the first set of changes that we made, I thought we played really, really well. It was right up there with the Villa game early in the season, with the Newcastle game and the Chelsea game as, you know, one of our better performances of the season. It was nice to see us look like a functioning football team with Trent, the right back, playing as a right back. I mean, what a unique and crazy idea to play a fella in his position. What a unique and crazy idea to have the best attacking player maybe that the Premier League has ever seen, certainly one of the top two, not playing as an auxiliary linesman and not being a decoy, but actually getting the ball early and getting the ball often. Like, what revolutionary ideas today to, you know, play Jurgen Klopp football rather than whatever the hell we've been doing for many weeks. Well, most of the season and most of last season, to be honest. I thought we were really good. When we play like we did in the first half in particular, and then obviously when we came out in the second half, we kept it up. But when we play like that, we're every bit as good as the top two teams in the league. The difference between us and them is that we have a bigger variance in performance than they do. Like, their worst performance is probably like a 6 out of 10, and teams can beat them if they play really well. Teams don't necessarily have to always play well to take points off us. It's why we've dropped points in 3 more games than those two other teams. Man for man, we're every bit as good as City. I think we've got a better collection of individuals than Arsenal. But the variance in our team is what has cost us this year. But today, I mean, look, Spurs are a good team. They're a good team. They're going to finish 5th in the league. Yes, they've lost 4 in a row now. They're in a poor run of form. But they're a good team with a lot of good players. But we absolutely tore them asunder. We could have been 5 up by half time. It was just a really, really strong overall performance with 11 lads playing for each other, which is always good to see. And if we can finish out the rest of the season doing the same against Villa and against Wolves, we'll get ourselves to 84 points. I'll remind everybody that last year Arsenal finished with 84 points and people couldn't get the lube and tissues out quick enough to load them. So for year one of a rebuild, and I know we're getting a reset in the summer because Jurgen's leaving, but this was year one of the eventual rebuilding of Klopp's Liverpool team. It's going to end in disappointment because we won't have the big pots, but there's so much promise to be taken from a lot of what we've seen, particularly when Trent plays as a right back and Mohamed Salah isn't getting chalk on his boots.
It was remarkable to watch on a couple of occasions, especially in that first half. Trent standing next to the touchline, receiving the ball and playing a ball immediately into Mo's feet and realising, oh yeah, that was good. I remember when we used to do that. And it was nice to see him being the one who was overlapping and getting crosses in and winning corners and all the rest of all that other stuff that he did to a world-class level for several seasons. I agree completely. And Mo, to bring you in on this, and it's an unusually chipper young Hendrick there that we've heard in terms of his assessment of that. You could be forgiven for being one of the many people. I wasn't one because I don't see anything in it for me except misery, who were asking the question, almost several of them asking the question directly to me during the game, are you not a bit pissed off that this is only happening now or that this is happening at this stage of the season when everything's gone? And I do understand that mindset. I just don't understand the point of leaning into it, to be honest, because what's done is done. And if you're not over your disappointment now, I don't see the point in adding to it. I do see the validity of the perspective, Mo. Did you find yourself leaning into any of that kind of misery at all in terms of, an understandable annoyance that this has come too late?
No, not really. I mean, I felt that, to some extent, the pressure was off. And so for the players going out there, I think they just wanted to use it as an opportunity to, in his penultimate game at Anfield, give Klopp a better performance than they'd served up over the last, 6 to 8 weeks. They certainly rose to the occasion, therefore. So I thought that was really good. Obviously, we'll all feel very disappointed with how the last 6 to 8 weeks have panned out. But look, it's not as if the team wasn't creating chances, didn't have opportunities to win most of the games, if not all of the games that they played over the last, best part of 2 months. It was just, the finishing fell away when we really needed it to, be better than ever. And then that seemed to have a bit of a knock-on effect on the squad. And then on top of that, injuries really seemed to catch up with us as well. We had players, coming back and then maybe coming back for a game or two and then dropping out again. And again, that affected the rhythm. And, if you look at an Arsenal, for example, they pretty much play the same team with 1 or 2 changes week in, week out. And that's something that we've not seen pretty much the whole season. And I felt that really was a telling factor with where we've ended up over the last couple of months. But no, in answer to your question, I wasn't kind of leaning into that at all. I just took it on its own merits and tried to enjoy it for what it was. And on top of that, I'm not really a big fan of Tottenham Hotspur, so to get a victory over them is all the sweeter.
Yeah, it's become apparent to me, Mo, as this season has played out, that I pretty much hate every other team. I didn't think I was that guy, and yet here we are. Because like you, I was like, please, for the love of God, don't let them get back into it. Not these of all people. And Dave, just to bring you back in on this point that Mo's raised here, because like I say, we're going to be a little bit more freewheeling than usual on this one. That is, in and of itself, probably all these games were worth was an opportunity to remind the fans the people who had gotten incredibly fatalistic about it all and were calling everyone shit and throwing out all the babies with all the bathwater. That, you know, there are some wonderful players here. We have the ability, and have had it very recently, to play some good football. And that it's more a matter of tweaking than complete and utter carnage when it comes to the summer transfer market. It is nice to have that reminder, but it's also, as Mo says, you know, even though you and I are probably not the most sentimental chaps in the world when it comes to this sort of thing, if any man deserves to go out with a bit of a smile on his face, it is Klopp. It's nice to see him have the opportunity to do the old fist bumps there at the end, have that moment of connection. If he's done nothing else, and he has done a lot else, he has revitalised the culture of this club, giving the fans back a feeling of status, because the club has raised back to the top in terms of status. It's lovely for him, at least, to have these last few moments be positive.
It is. I mean, we're all old enough to remember, you know, how grim things were in the 90s, in terms of never challenging for the title, not really making much of a fist of it on the few occasions we found ourselves in European competition. And then the feeling of becoming relevant again with Gerard Houllier. And Jed, unfortunately, never fully got the chance to say goodbye. You know, he didn't decide he was leaving. It was decided for him. And then obviously Rafa took over, and he elevated that even further. And while we never, I mean, I know people talk about 08, 09, but there's a lot of revisionism. We fell off with a number of games to go in that season, and then kind of made up a bit of ground again. But we didn't really challenge for the title. But we were exceptionally strong in Europe. And we were one of the teams in Europe that nobody wanted to play. None of the big foreign clubs wanted to come and play at Anfield in Europe. Barcelona, Real, Bayern, none of them wanted any part of Rafa Benitez Liverpool.
That was huge for your self-esteem as a fan at the time, wasn't
massive,
it?
Absolutely massive.
I remember trading off that. I felt so good, you know?
Because, like, you know, you look back on the 2000s, right? You think of the great English teams, league-wise. You've got a tremendous United team late in the decade, winning 3 titles in a row. You've got an Arsenal team that went unbeaten. And you've got Mourinho's Chelsea that won 2 titles and would have won a third if not for injuries. United obviously did win a European Cup in there, but that was 3 exceptionally strong domestic teams, and actually 4, because there was 2 United teams, one at the start of the decade and then one later in the decade. So we were below all of them in that decade domestically, but on European footing, we held our own. We won a European Cup, which neither Chelsea or Arsenal managed to do. We were in another final. We were in semi-finals. You know, we were always going deep in Europe. So you felt like you could stand with your head up and your chest out, because while we weren't getting it done at home, we were exceptionally good in Europe. And that gave us a real sense of pride. And that was under both Jed. I mean, every one of us that's old enough can remember the feeling of that treble season, you know, the winning the UEFA Cup and what that felt like. It was just genuine, an amazing year to be a Liverpool fan. And then on through Rafa. But my point is, neither of them got to go out on their own terms. Neither of them got to say goodbye the way they would have wanted and the way they both deserved for what they had done. What Jurgen has done stands above both of them, because not only has he done it in Europe, having taken over a club that had been, let's be honest, irrelevant in Europe again under Kenny, under Rodgers, under Hodgson, obviously, sack of shit. But the first thing Jurgen really did was make us relevant in Europe again, getting to a Europa League final, then to a European Cup final, then winning a European Cup. And then obviously he delivers the league title as well. What Jurgen has done is Jed and Rafa together and more. And I said last season, we were talking about this. Most others decided to bury their head in the sand, but we were coming on this podcast and talking about it, that maybe the end was in sight for Jurgen. And we all agreed Jurgen will know before anybody else when it's time to go. That's the awareness he'll have of this situation, that he will know when it's time to step down, when he can no longer do it week in, week out, season after season. And that's what we've seen happen, is he's made the decision in November, obviously then filtered through to the rest of the world in January, that it's time to go. And therefore, he's getting to leave on his own terms, which is really, really good and really rare in modern football, that a manager gets. It's rare that a manager stays at a club as long as Jurgen has been at Liverpool, and it's even rarer that they get to go out on their own terms. Like, if you think back over the last 30 years of English football, Ferguson did it, and that's basically it, because Wenger didn't want to leave. But the fans turned against Wenger really, really badly at Arsenal in those last 2 seasons. Moyes left Everton, but he left for United, and he left under a cloud. So he didn't get the farewell that his tenure at Everton probably deserved. So it's really only Ferguson and Jurgen, and Guardiola, whenever he leaves City, will get the same, obviously. But I mean, they've got no fans, so there'll probably be nobody there. It'll just be an empty stadium and Pep waving at blue seats. But it's great that Jurgen's getting to end this in his own way, and he's getting the adoration that he's warranted. But also for the club are probably getting the change that is needed. Like, there is just a certain, I think, limit on how long a manager can stay at a club. And I think Jurgen had reached that limit. I think he reached it last season. This year he got a bit of get up and go, but it ran out quite early. So it is the right time, and it's the right way for him to go as well.
Added bonus in the middle of your summary there, you made me think of the Wealdstone Raider saying you've got no fans.
What a man.
I'm going to be watching that all evening.
So we were talking yesterday when we were recording the Buzz podcast about the Palace nightclub in Navan, and I was saying about the lads from California being at it. I think the lowest point for the Palace nightclub in Navan was when they were putting up posters for special guest star, the Wealdstone Raider. And like, what a man. That fella airlocked at a game, roaring to himself about having no fans, no ground, and what a shithole. And he became an internet sensation.
Oh, and offering lads out as well. Like,
offering some fella out who was no doubt much bigger than him, because he's only a little man. But like, that's what a turnaround in that man. I don't know what that man did before. I don't know anything about him. But what a turnaround in his life. He is like forever going to be remembered certainly on our corner of the internet.
Well, right now, for sure. And right now, I've decided that I'm going to start a GoFundMe thing so that we can get him to commentate on Pep Guardiola leaving City as he's walking out with a big smug head, and just have the Wealdstone Raider going, yeah, no fans. Fantastic.
What a shit. Ow. Magnificent.
Mo, to bring you back in on this, the way that we went today, of course, had a bearing on the way that the first half panned out. And it's a strong looking lineup with Ali there, and Kwanzaa in alongside Van Dijk is probably the only change from what most people would see as our nominal best back five unit there, including Ali. But, you know, you're bringing in Jarell Kwanzaa. He's a very, very good footballer, proved it several times today as well. And we go with an unusual sort of a setup then. Endo, McAllister, Elliott, Salah, Gakpo and Diaz. Now, I don't think anyone was too surprised with the front trio, because it was kind of sticking out a mile that Darwin's been so off the boil, he probably wasn't going to start. Diaz is an automatic pick for Klopp these days. Gakpo is very much the only one who had anything resembling a bit of form, even if that has been wildly exaggerated. And I think if Mo Salah hadn't started, there probably would have been an inquest. So it was only really around the midfield personnel. And, the potential balance of Endo, McAllister and Elliott may not look perfect, but if they're all playing to their potential, that's not a bad looking lineup. And when you have a bench then that has Gomez, Kanate, Szoboszlai, Nunes, Jones, Gravenberch, Bajcetic, Kelleher and Bradley, you're happy enough. It's a very, very solid looking outfit. Did you have any issues with how he decided to go today before we even got the surprise that was us reverting to the less experimental version of the lineup with Trent?
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Not to an egregious level by any means. I mean, I thought that Gravenberch perhaps with recent performances might have warranted a start, but at the same time, he felt that Elliott was worth giving another run out there as a starter. I mean, Elliott, I think, has flattered to deceive with some of his performances when he started. I mean, it's been a different story when he has come off the bench. I mean, his performances off the bench have generally been significantly better than when he has started. So it was nice to see his performance today where, starting the game, seeing it through till pretty much the end. It was encouraging. It was good that he brought quality. I mean, the work rate and the effort and commitment is always there, but sometimes the quality is a little bit lacking. But, there was ample amount of that today from him. But no, the lineup is one that I was pretty comfortable with. And I was glad to see Kwanzaa back alongside Van Dijk. I thought that, with Kanate, he has been a bit up and down in form over the last few weeks. And, up until then, and prior to his last injury, he had been in imperious form by and large. So it's a bit of a shame how his form has tailed off. And I think, with Endo, he seems to be running on fumes at the moment. He had a really strong, patch by his standards for about 3 or 4 months. But again, in the last few weeks, he's really, really tailed off and clearly shown that Edwards and Hughes, amongst the top of their list, needs to be a real top quality DM, which hopefully we'll talk about later on if we get a chance. But overall, though, I didn't have any major issues with the lineup.
Do you think, as you look at Spurs, just to bring them into it for a second, I think a win today would have had them something like, I think, 4 points off Villa, who are in fourth, and they would have retained the game in hand over Villa. So far from breathing down their necks, but they were in with an outside chance of that fourth place. Certainly something to fight for. A lot more reasonable in terms of their expectation than our wild, crazy outside chance of both Arsenal and City collapsing and us getting in at the last minute. It's something that they really could have been thinking about as a real possibility. A win today, and then again, and Villa have a couple of tricky matches. They could have really been thinking, right, okay, this is an opportunity for us to get Champions League football. I don't want to denigrate the Liverpool performance in any way. That's not what I'm trying to do. But just to ask you, Mo, in terms of your opinion of the Spurs that showed up to play, in that first half that showed up for the game in that first half. Gary Neville was very positive about them because they weren't getting battered 5-0 in the first 5 minutes. But I thought the positivity on his part was completely misplaced because we owned the ball, we owned possession. They didn't seem to have the requisite desire, considering how much was theoretically on the line for them. I thought it was a weird sort of a performance. I don't know necessarily that we had one of those Liverpool nights where we absolutely choked them in terms of our dominance. I wonder, was it a combination of we played quite well and they just weren't up for it in the way that they probably should have been. I was quite surprised at that lack of bite in that first half performance from them.
Yeah, I mean, they're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team at the moment. I mean, last weekend, I thought despite losing against Arsenal, they performed really well. And, there were just some really poor errors which led to their defeat. Other than that, their general play was pretty strong. But I think what really took the wind out of their sails was their midweek performance just 3 nights ago against Chelsea, where they were against a really depleted Chelsea team and they should have got something out of that game. Chelsea, again, very much a Jekyll and Hyde team, but they rose to the challenge despite having, barely enough senior first-team players to put on the pitch. And I think that carried into this game. And I thought, okay, well, maybe the shock defeat, relatively speaking, for Villa earlier today against Brighton might have given him a bit of impetus to think, okay, we'll still have a chance. We've got an outside chance of maybe scraping top 4, but we saw none of that. They had a good start to the game in the first 5 to 10 minutes. They were slightly the stronger team, but once we settled down, there was pretty much only one team in it for until we made the substitutions. But it was strange. It was strange that it only took us taking our foot off the pedal for them to start performing, and also obviously the changes too. But Tottenham, I think we'll look back on this season as a disappointing one, where I think they had a couple of very key injuries at the point at which they were topping the table back in around October, November time, if I recall correctly, when I think both Maddison and Van de Ven went out with long-term injuries. And I think they'll look back at that point as a real turning point for their season. I think had those key injuries not fell at the time that they did, and those players had been out for the duration that they were, I think they would comfortably have made top 4 this season.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. And Dave, just, before we get you and I into the first half proper, I'm just looking at the table here and I'm seeing there's an 11-point gap between us and Villa in 4th. So it's not really a thing. I mean, obviously today's win makes that a little bit more clear and comfortable. People aren't going to want to hear this. I didn't want to hear it myself. I'm saying it. I don't even want to hear it myself. But I guess maybe if we had an ability to take a step back from the immediacy of the situation, this evolution that you've already spoken about of the new Liverpool team that has begun under Klopp and will continue under Slot, it's a fairly solid start to it. I mean, like there's something like 24 points between us and Chelsea, who are putting together a bit of a purple patch for themselves. We're not that far off considering how much we've fucked up in recent weeks. The two leaders. It's hard. I don't want to sound like I'm consoling myself. I'm not really that kind of guy, as you know, but if we're to take a step back and just objectively assess the amount of points we have on the board, what's left that can be attained in terms of an overall points total, that does represent solid progress with this bunch of players, with more changes to come.
Last season we finished in 5th with 67 points. If we win out this season, we're going to end up with 17 points more. We're going to finish 2 positions higher in the league, 3rd. Manchester United last season finished 8 points ahead of us. This season, we currently sit... Now, we have played 2 games more. We're 24 points ahead of them. Newcastle finished above us as well. We've played one game more than them. We are 22 points clear of them. So absolutely, there's been a huge shift with us. Now, some of that is Virgil getting back to Virgil, Trent getting back to being Trent, and the new midfield obviously has been a factor. Now, we're going to end up, the max we can end up behind the league title winners is 7 points this year. So that's a really good step up from last season when we finished 22 points behind the title winner. Yeah. Especially considering that title winner, if they max out, would be City on 91, which is 2 points more than they took last year, and yet we'll still be so much closer to them. And I will remind everybody that we were robbed of points in at least 3 games. Spurs away, City home, the Doku on Alexis penalty that should have been, and the Odegaard handball at Anfield in the Arsenal game. So if we were given those 2 penalties and that goal counted and nothing else took place, we'd actually potentially finish level in points with Arsenal in second. Let's say we get a draw at White Hart Lane and win the other, or at the Tottenham Stadium and win the other 2. We'd finish level in points with Arsenal. And that is before you consider the sheer volume of injuries that we've dealt with this year. So if we have better luck next season, better luck with injuries next season, and we don't get so many refereeing decisions going against us in such a horrendous way, we're right in the mix without doing anything else, without adding anything else. Like, you look at Arsenal this season, they've had, Jesus has missed, I think, 8 games and Zinchenko's missed 6. No other starter has missed more than like 3 or 4 games. They've had a settled team they've been able to play all year. We've had to chop and change. I think we've had something like 10 players miss 9 or more league games. And we've had, I think, 7 starters miss 9 or more league games. I think it's 7 starters miss 9 or more league games. And they've had none miss 9 league games. City have had, I think, 5 miss 9 or more league games. So, by doing nothing else, we should, if things even themselves out, if Arsenal get a few more injuries, we get a few less. If we get a few more favourable decisions, or just outright bad decisions not given against us, and they don't get blatant dives given us penalties like they did yesterday, that should just bring us closer automatically. But as I've said before, it doesn't matter who the new manager is next year. It doesn't matter if it was Jurgen staying on. It doesn't matter if it was Ruben Amorim coming in, or Alonso coming in, or Zidane coming in, or Arne Slot coming in. The need for this summer remains the same, and it's 3 starters and 2 squad players. And one of those squad players is only needed because Caoimhín Kelleher will likely leave. That's not a whole ton to have to do. That is evolution. It's not revolution. You're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're not tearing up the blueprint and starting again. Yes, the style of play will change significantly because Slot's style is a significant departure from Klopp's style, regardless of what silly journalists want to tell you. It is a significant departure from what he does, both on and off the ball. But we have great players. And you know what great players are able to do? They're able to adapt. And Trent will be able to adapt, and Ibu and Virgil and Alisson and Alexis and Szoboszlai and Salah. They will all be able to adapt to a new style. We will find, I think, a couple of players in this squad who actually go up a level under Arne Slot because his style of football will suit them more.
Yep, and all of that is exactly why I managed to irk the mediocrity merchants during the week by saying that I don't think I have the patience personally for any sort of transitional nonsense being talked about as a kind of a lean into an excuse. Well, if you saw the weirdos who came out from underneath the floorboards to tell me that I was like some sort of
entitled. Did you get called entitled? Because Brundish tweeted something similar, but more aimed at this season, about how he feels, disappointed, gutted that all we're ending it with is third and the League Cup. Yeah. And he got the same shit. Now, Brundish is of a similar ilk to yourself, age-wise. You're lads that, were around and saw the 80s and got used to what it was like in the 80s, and then lived through the 90s and what that was like, and lived through the 2000s and much of the 2010s and what that was like. And I'm a bit younger than you guys, so for me, I didn't get the full experience of the 80s. I just got the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. Like, I didn't have that real glory period that you guys got in the 80s. So for me, I don't think I'm feeling entitled when I say this club should be competing to win the major honours every year. Because how would I be entitled? I didn't grow up with it. Yeah. You guys lived through all the same shit that I did as well in the 90s with Souness, then later on with Hodge. It's the kids, and it's the we go the game, we're better than you, we support the team through no matter what. And, it's about the day out merchants. It's them lads. They're the lads that, them and the little kids that are too young to know better, are the ones that scream entitlement. But the bottom line of it is, Trev, the floor for this team coming into the league this season was third. The floor. When you have Alisson, Trent, Virgil and Mo, 4 of the best players to ever play in this league, the 4 best individuals to play their positions, when you have them, the very, very bare minimum is going to be third in this league with how it's set up right now.
It has to be.
So for next year, the floor once again is third. Because, like, as we sit here, you look at Arsenal, you look at City. I don't look at Arsenal and see a team better than us. I see a team that's set up better than us. Like I said, they've got less variance in their performance. They've also got a lot more control of the game. They get that first goal, they sit back, they control things, and if you overcommit against them, they'll kill you on the counter-attack. The same thing we were doing in 1819 and 1920, by the way. They haven't reinvented the wheel. We did it in a more aggressive manner. They do it in a more controlled manner. But I don't see a better team than us. I look at our team, and Ali starts for them, Trent starts for them, Virgil starts for them, Alexis starts for them, Mo starts for them. Like, do you know what I mean? Darwin starts for them when he's on his best, he starts them. So, like, I don't see a better team than us there. City, I can accept are a better team than us right now, but the gap isn't as big as people make it out to be. But I can accept if next season both of them, Arsenal in year 5 under Arteta, City in year 9 under Pep, well-established teams, well-established methods of playing, huge money put into both teams, well over 600 million for Arteta, well over the billion mark for Pep. I can accept them finishing above us next season, but nobody else. Like, who else? Who else are you looking at in that league table this season or last season or next season and thinking should finish above us? Certainly not Villa. Certainly not Spurs. Certainly not Newcastle. Certainly not Manchester United managed by that fool. And not Chelsea either, because while there's loads and loads of talent there, the pieces don't fit all that well together. So, like, tell me, when people say, oh, we've overachieved, have we? Have we really? Like, in what way have we overachieved if we finished third and won the League Cup? Third is the floor. And next season, third is the bare minimum again. And if Arnie does that and we play really good football and it's a lot of fun to watch and we're solid defensively and we do pretty well in the Champions League, that I can accept. But that is the bare minimum of what I'm accepting. And the following year, it had better be a title challenge.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.